So I'm Mark Merriamplay, your moderator for today, and today's webinar is on ERC-7943. I'm particularly happy to be on here moderating about this. It's going to be a real game changer. So just a bit of admin in terms of how today is going to go. We're going to have opening remarks from Klaus Scanning, CEO of DigiShares and the host of today's webinar. We will then move on to presentations from the panelists we got on board, and we've got a great panel today. We've got Philippe from Brickin, we've got Jean from STO Box, Klaus, as I mentioned, from DigiShares, the host today, Pritam, and we got Pritam from Soth.io and Bryn from Hacking. So they'll do presentations, a couple of questions I'll ask them, and then guess what? For the audience, we're going to do some Q&As. So for the audience, all there today, I think some more are joining. As we go through the session, please feel free to put your Q&As on there, and I'll do my best as we get to the latter part of this session to tackle some of those. All right, so just to give a bit of background on ERC-7943 before Klaus gets going. I've been in the industry, a bit of introduction for me, CEO of Takuti, a blockchain consultancy, and also BD at Valerian PLC. We have a regulated RWA marketplace that will be using 7943. I've been in the industry for some time, and for a while we've had plenty of token standards, right? We had 1400, 3643, and various companies trying to spin off different standards. There's a lot of silo there. Data's all over the place, creating massive friction and really killing institutional liquidity before it's even got there. So ERC-7943 and the co-authors and our panels will go in a lot more detail, really designed to solve this and give us a holistic standard. In my opinion, this is going to be the game changer, what we've been waiting for on ERC token standards for RWAs. And it really comes at a perfect time. I was just at Token 2049. A number of the panelists were there alongside me. And really, the talk is now not about what is RWAs and is it a buzzword, but actually how can we get into it? So I think it's the perfect time for ERC-7943 to build on that foundation. But the real power of this standard is the coalition, and we've got some members of them today. And again, like I said, we've got the co-author of the standard, Brickin, on here. So really happy for that. And we'll be privileged to hear from them as we go on and get their unique perspective on, what is it? What does it do? What does it solve? How are they going to use it in their particular organizations? And why, again, in my opinion, is this going to be a game changer? Right. So without further ado, let's get crack on. I'm going to hand you over to Klaus Scanning, CEO of DigiShares. Thank you.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Klaus. I'm the CEO of DigiShares, and we are the host here today. I think it'll be difficult to find a more qualified panel anywhere, actually, I think, in the world at any event than we have here today. With some of my esteemed colleagues in the industry, we've been working on this for many years, between the 5 or 6 of us. And it's a great pleasure for me really to now be able to collaborate on standards that will make our industry more interoperable and increase the chances, I think, for everyone here to be successful. So DigiShares is a provider of white label technology for tokenization. We've got more than 200 clients globally using our platform to tokenize mostly real estate, but also many other kinds of assets. It's an end-to-end solution for issuance, management, and trading, and it's used by many developers, funds, and asset managers. We are also launching an exchange for real estate trading. Tokenized real estate is running in the US, and we are launching it also in other jurisdictions as we get the licenses for it. But I will not speak so much about us, but rather about the new standard 7943, as Mark has introduced it. We've actually been considering to do something like this for several years, and I've known for many years also that it was a necessity for our industry to bring forward something like this. So it was really, really nice to see that Brickin took the initiative, right, and put it out there and did the work to collect interest, and the group that we see here and several other companies together in order to push this standard forward. And they did a great job in making the initial development efforts to make a standard that was really useful and better than what came before. So from our perspective, none of the standards that were put forward in the past were really useful for general industry, cross-industry use, because they were often controlled to a great degree by a single vendor in the industry, right? We need a standard that is open and independent, vendor neutral, and without any single or a few vendors benefiting from its distribution, right, or popularity. So that's what we have here. It puts all of us on an equal footing. We can collaborate on using it and developing it forward and making it into an industry-wide standard. So it's really the first successful attempt, I think, at creating something that has a real chance of becoming a standard, and we will do everything in our power to push it out there and to make it popular and sustainable. So we will definitely implement it in our white label tokenization platform and also in our exchange. So hopefully it will be interoperable with a lot of other platforms in the marketplace. So I'm really great. I'm looking forward to the presentations here today. We are also working on a standard for ID. I'm actually not so it's not so important to me that this becomes the standard for decentralized ID in the future, but I would say we need also a standard in this area. And that could also be a reason or a way to expand the collaboration. I think that should be maybe a next focus for us to try to come up with some joint standards in this space here. We have something that we're putting out, and we're using it on the exchange and on a white label platforms. And it's open for anyone to use. It's based on Polygon Privado ID technology and using a KYC provider called CK.me. But it's not controlled by us, where anyone can use it, and we don't benefit from it in any way. So I think that could be interesting as well. Also, I would like to put forward a few ideas or new concepts that we are thinking of in our sort of business development efforts. There's a lot of discussion about how the market is developing, and it's our sort of thesis that tokenization will longer term become the infrastructure of the financial industry, right? And I think a lot of people agree to that. So in principle, it will not be a product or an application in itself, but rather an underlying infrastructure that all of us will be using, also together with the existing financial industry. And that means that necessarily it will fade into the background over the next few years and just become the way that things are done. And we as tech providers will be similar to the Amazon Web Services of the capital markets. And the existing financial services providers will still provide same financial services, but with less intermediaries, but still guaranteeing custody of money and so on for the safekeeping and trust of normal users. So banks will develop, obviously, or sort of evolve into a different role where they don't always hold custody of money. They still do this, but they also become operators of digital networks and a lot of services in the space that still needs the trust to become really widespread and useful. The second sort of thesis that we are basing our business development efforts on is that we have been doing a lot of work as an industry to try to educate users to invest into tokenized assets, and it's a long-term uphill battle, I would say, to get sufficient buy-side developed in this way, and it could potentially take many years, I would say, for that to really evolve, because it goes slowly. We have seen it before with the introduction of stock trading 20 or 30 years ago. It took a long time for end users to learn how to do it and to actually find an interest and a usefulness in the investment into to stocks at the time. Same thing with the REITs. When it came out as a new concept, it took a long time for users to learn what it is and how to actually invest into it. And we see the same here now with tokenized assets, right? And it's even worse here because users have to learn how to use new technology, wallets, private keys, and so on. So it's difficult, right? It's a long process. We've been part of this for now 7 years, doing many events to try to educate users to get into the space, set up wallets, get interested into investing into tokenized assets, and so on. And of course, we will continue this process. But I think in reality, what will happen is that within a few, not so many years, the existing distribution rails of the financial industry will be connected to what we are doing. So we will get the distribution on the buy side pretty much for free within the next few years, because banks will implement wallets as a natural extension of accounts, and will give their users direct and natural intuitive access to invest into tokenized assets. And tokenized assets will be presented as shares or stocks in the same way as they are now. Of course, users will be able to self-custody. That's the main difference. But otherwise, we think we will see this kind of evolution. So tokenization will succeed when it plugs into the financial system that people already trust. On the last slide here, this is where we will be present for the rest of the year. You can meet us in Dubai several times, in Miami within a few weeks, in Abu Dhabi, and also we are hosting, I think, another 3 webinars before the new year. So we will share the slides so you can see it. That's it for me. Thank you. Back to Mark.
Thank you very much, Klaus. Interesting. You're globetrotting away. So anyone there wants to connect with DigiShares, talk about ERC-7943 or DigiShares platform, feel free to find Klaus somewhere in the world. Now, really excited to get on. Like I said, we got the co-authors of 7943. Oh my gosh, I'm so passionate today. This is sending tingles because we've been waiting for this for a long time. So I want to welcome Philippe Donofrio from Brickin. They're essentially the EIP author of this co-standard. And look, he's here to talk about ERC-7943, why they built it, how they built it. The floor is yours, Philippe. I'm excited for this.
Hello, everyone. Okay, everyone can hear me. So, well, I am Felipe Donofrio. I'm co-founder and CTO of Brickin. We are based in Barcelona. We are focusing in building the next generation of infrastructure for the financial industry. And as Klaus said, is the tokenization. So, yeah, we are the pioneers on the 7943. It's been done by Dario D'Abuglio, who is a co-founder of Brickin too. And we feel the need, we need to deploy something that can be used by everyone and stop doing this competition in different standards, start collaborating and create this new standard. I am very happy that we can make this group and everyone push together this standard to remove these silos happening on the industry that affect all the liquidity depth of the market. And in this path, we can make great things together, really. So thank you for the invitation to this panel.
Okay, great. Thank you, Philippe. Just a couple of questions. I know we're gonna get into the panel later on.
Yeah.
But Philippe, being Brickin, his team were a key author, essentially, of the standard 7943.
Yeah.
What was really the moment that made you realize that, look, a new minimal standard that was really going to be required as the only way forward, rather than adapting, let's say, 1400s or 3643s, for instance. So yeah, what was the moment? What was your aha moment when you said, "Look, we need to do this"?
Well, I think that many times when we were pushing like alone what we has been building to tokenize the assets, we encountered that other more knowledge standards are in the market, but are not possible. So the institutions and other parties like say like, hey, but you are not using this standard. But for us was not possible because was based for a vendor or was heavily opinionated and was not that was not better than what we was using. So we say why, but that is not right. We need to do it. We need to believe in what we're doing, and we just make the decision like that. Yes, okay, we already test our standards. We already have clients. We already have feedback. We see what the institutions are looking for, what our clients need, and let's build something minimal that can escalate depending on the different financial instruments that need to be tokenized, and allow other participants to do it for their needs. So in that moment we say, okay, let's do this. We was very scared in the sense of how long this gonna take to be, approved, review, etc. But it has been very welcome on the community. Like everyone's have the same feeling, and 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 yeah, just say let's do it, and let's do it truly open, and that's all. Just is the action to make it happen. But yeah, there's the first reason was like that. Yes, a group people with a no opinionated standard to provide to our clients something that they can understand and they can use in their different use case for sure.
Okay, yeah, definitely. I mean, my background originally was in capital markets and investment banking. We went through a similar kind of period there where, we needed different standards for investment banking products. So I can see the liken of it now transferring into digital assets. And this is what institutions need, right? They need a standard that they can trust. They need a standard where they can get involved. So no, I totally agree with you. I think that's it's going to be great. You can see my energy because I'm so excited about this. But
Yes,
going to,
everyone is excited about this standard. Was
I know.
more than our expectation was surpassed for sure. Was like, damn,
Yeah,
everyone's needs
yeah,
to do this and remove these silos and start working on the interoperability too. Um,
yeah.
because right now all these different, well, at least on the EVM ecosystem, be able to be interoperable across the Ethereum based project. So that is possible through this new standard too.
Well, definitely not to give anything away on this call as well, but literally yesterday, I was having a BD call with an EVM, L1, and actually talking about 7943. So yeah, look, there is an excitement across the industry, some small players, larger players, and what can be done. And yeah, it's interoperable, very easy to implement. So everyone's excited. Going back to your platform, Britain's platform, I know you've got Token Suite and the STO factory. Now, how will that really serve as a showcase for the power of 7943?
Well, when we start with these tokenization of financial instruments, we start with equity and debt, and then we start getting more different type of financial instrument that wants to be tokenized. And through or implementation or previous implementation was much harder to adapt to these different financial instruments that what clients are looking for. So through the 7943 as this minimal interface, and we can expand it as we need, will be easier for us, like provide to these clients these different financial instruments to be tokenized. In that sense, this will be make more agile our platform, and provide what our clients need in that space. And as we are working on different networks, with the interoperability of it, will make it easier for our clients to get liquidity in the markets. So it's a win-win action for us.
Awesome. And I know we've got Pritam later on the DeFi side, but I suspect, you know, at some point 7943 can easily fit into an RWA whitelisted DEX, for instance, and we can have kind of cross-chain swaps. I know you talked about
Totally.
liquidity, collateralization, borrowing and lending. Yeah.
In the technical side is super possible. We can do it right now. The biggest problem through the secondary markets or DEX markets is more on the regulation side. Once you tokenize a financial instrument, you can't change the nature of the financial instrument. So if this financial instrument can be freely trade, it's not possible. It's not possible to put it on the market. So we are waiting for the creation of a new financial instrument that can be adapted for RWAs to be easily transferred, or a change on the regulations or the law, or well, depending on the regions, right? So in the technical side is feasible for sure, but in the regulation side we're still waiting, as this is very new. Many projects are working on this. We're working on different type of, not directly secondary markets, but a way to transfer the asset between very private markets, but make it as open as we want is not possible by only for regulation at the moment, at least on Europe. Yeah.
Awesome. Philippe, obviously we've got the panel later on. I can see questions popping up galore, so we'll definitely come on to that later on from the audience. I know they're really interested, but a couple of last words on 7943 before we move on to Gene. I can do it. I think you couldn't hear me, but yeah. So we'll move on to Gene. But a couple of last words on 7943. It's going to be the biggest standard out there for RWAs, right? That is it. Full stop.
We're looking for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is our expectation. Just it's the point to start to make something bigger for sure. I think this is gonna make the basements for every one of this group to start building something more stronger for sure.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Philippe. We'll talk shortly in the panel discussion. Really appreciate you guys coming on board, giving you the co-authors of the 7943. Thank you, Philippe.
Sure. Thanks to you.
Cool. All right. So we're going to move on to Gene now from STO Box, and he'll give an overview on what they do, but especially on the institutional side. So over to you, Gene.
Thank you. First of all, it's a great pleasure to be here. Thank you for hosting an event, and thanks for the great initiative. I think that's I'm excited, and I think in this stage of the market, we're not talking about the competition, but rather collaboration, and this is exactly what I'm seeing here. And this is we're at Starbucks in the industry since 2018. I remember companies like where since the inception, since nobody even talked about RWAs. There was no even acronym called RWA. Everybody was referring to STO. That actually where our name came from, Starbucks, as the box for STOs. Since the inception, we've managed to assist more than 100 clients, and throughout the journey, we focus on what is called a turnkey tokenization, because when we look at the clients, when you start dealing with them, you understand that it's not only the technical part, but the kind of general onboarding, understanding, and then you can't do one part of it. You have to actually acknowledge, and you have to build or embed something that actually will close the full cycle, the full pipeline from the perspective of the securities life cycle, of the tokenized asset life cycle, as well as to onboard it and embed it with kind of user-friendly and business-friendly elements. And since then, what we're doing is that we focus on kind of building our own infrastructure. And when I do say so, I mean we have a customizable SaaS platform, which is Starbucks 4. We've been building it. It's a fourth generation of the platform, and we're building it for last year and a half. Again, we're registered and regulated as a VASP at the moment, upgrading to CASP in Europe. However, we're also part of as a kind of MiCA upgrade. But we're also members of, let's say, Blockchain for Europe Association. We're now bordering Qatar Financial Center. So what we do is that we expand the narrative of RWAs and making sure that we along with partners can close the life cycle of the tokenized asset, where the main main goal, as far as I'm concerned, the main goal is to make tokenized assets superior to traditional whatever paper-based or Web2 based securities. And in order to make them more superior, and that would be the point when the adoption really comes into play, not only cost but the operating of effectiveness. And this is exactly why we're very enthusiastic about the standard we're talking about, so that will bring the unique layer. So we need to make sure that the future of tokenized assets will be smooth, and the institutions, whoever engages, well, when looking at the tokenized asset, it becomes a more superior in many aspects asset than a traditional one. And coming back to Starbucks, we're not only focused on the platform, but again, we're trying to close the full turnkey. We've recently built what is called a tokenization onboarding framework. When we meet the clients, they need a structured approach to the onboarding process. To do so, we've also developed, and this is a kind of an upgrade already of our decentralized identity. It would be very exciting to speak to Klaus about their initiative with decentralized identity, and exactly that's a very important element for the life cycle of the security of the tokenized asset and of the future of the standard itself. Another point I just want to emphasize is that not only the standard, but the data richness and the compatibility are essentials. And when I say data richness, with the fact that the tokenized securities should be more superior, is that we not only should kind of create those Web3 assets based on some information or some inputs, but we rather have to create an oracle or the set of processes that would embed the real-time data into Web3, into the token. So when an investor or any participant looks at the token, he receives all the up-to-date information from different registries, from different sources of Web2. So it is a complex job, but again, I see a very, very interesting collaborative environment, and we see how adoption goes, especially after the Trump's the Genius Acts. Now everybody comes with how can we embed so I think it's again great moments and momentum for the for that launch, for the standard launch, as well as for our collaboration. So thank you, and that's a couple of words from me.
Thank you, Gene. Much appreciated for you going through it. Just a couple of questions actually before you nip off. Stobox obviously is from an institutional side. So from an institutional client perspective, what's the single most important feature you feel for 7943? And is it the compliance modularity, vendor neutrality, or something else?
Frankly speaking, we're just tackling the institutional side. That's because most of our clients, as we see from the market, are small and medium enterprises, businesses that would like to use tokenization as their alternative in their fundraising activities. So in order to, as we see that, in order to come up to the enterprise level, it's not just one part which is essential, but it's the life cycle of the security that is essential. And again, we're talking about the roles, the management, the treasuries, the compliance part, the DID as a decentralized. So, and not only that, but the adoption and the standardization of that is the key. As we already mentioned, the fragmented or legacy systems, like we know them all. They are either vendor dependent, or they do not provide the scalability. And for the institutional, you have to, kind of rely on what is audited, what is already in the market, what's already adoptive, where there's a liquidity flow, and the ability to add on your own features, your own, KYC, AML embedments, and not lose the operability and the buzz of the token itself. So I think that's exactly where we're heading, and it's just a bit of work and a bit of time.
Awesome. Yeah, Stobox focuses a lot on legal and compliance aspects of tokenization. How does a technical standard like ERC-7943 make it easier to solve the legal and regulatory challenges of cross-border RWA distribution?
Look, that's first of all, that's a good question. Secondly, every jurisdiction has its own compliance, and it has its own legal and regulatory elements, and especially when it comes to cross-border settlement, the initiative of pre-transfer, of validating the destination and the source before the transaction happens, when we talk about cross-border, is essential, right? So yeah, I think that's the one part. The second part is the legality comes not only on the issuance side, but how you make that token legal throughout the journey. And again, with the fact that there's a different AML rules, KYC rules, offering rules. When it comes to offering, that's a different story, right? So for ASMA, there's a certain rules and the small offerings in Europe, and then you come to Regulation Z, and then there's a Regulation S. Singapore, all of this, the fragmented jurisdictions, they have to be kind of encoded, and we then can introduce compliance on air as not as the principle, but as the working concept. And I think that would be a big impact towards the cross-border settlement and the legal, let's say, standardization of the, I would say, international securities, right?
Great. Gene, thank you very much. We'll have you back
Pleasure is mine.
panel shortly. Yeah, no, thanks very much for going through that. I think everyone appreciated it. That's great. All right, so on to Pritam Dutta, CEO of Soft.io. Pritam, this stage is all yours. Be interesting to learn, obviously, how you guys are implementing 7943, because you cross over to DeFi quite a lot. So over to you, Pritam.
So first of all, thanks for getting me here. I think for us, we are more at the intersection of RWA, DeFi, as well as yield-bearing stablecoin, and obviously Ethereum and the entire ecosystem is the biggest that we have. ERC-7943 forms the next milestone for us, pretty much in terms of upgrades, in terms of working with the wider set of, I would say, players and partners to bring this up. For us, yield and RWA, non-RWA backed yield products are gonna be a big driver of how basically how the whole ecosystem grows, how more and more assets gets tokenized. And the biggest challenge that RWAs face is not just tokenization, it's the availability of crypto liquidity. Means lot of announcement I see is about tokenization, but there is a lack of liquidity addressing that. So at Zoth, one thing which we are kind of clearly focused on is really bringing 7943 at the core of what we do, of what we call RWA-Fi or StableFi, which means that we have a permission, fully regulated, compliant reserve structure through which we tokenize most of our asset. But on top, we have built a permissionless layer, which primarily ERC-7943 would be the core of it. And typically the way we operate, that the permissionless layer typically caters to retail, where the institutional layer primarily caters to institutions. So basically bringing both the benefit of DeFi as well as tokenized RWAs together. And this 7943 like really sets the right guidelines, especially from a reserve, especially from a standards perspective. And we see it playing a big role, especially on the liquidity and simplifying the roadblock that we typically face across various standards, across various players in terms of access to liquidity across this ecosystem.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Pritam. Great perspective given you guys, like you said, in the crossfire of DeFi and the stablecoins. Really great stuff that you're doing over there at soft.io. So focusing on creating a DeFi ecosystem for RWAs, how critical is a standard, like ERC-7943 for your mission? And also, does it make it easier to source and integrate different tokenized assets into your protocols?
See, the thing is, the biggest challenge is standards. The biggest challenge that we have seen is that the lack of coherent standards make it difficult to the basic products, for example, price liquidity, price oracles, especially when you want say for example you have yield-bearing treasury products. There needs to be instant settlement layer on top of it. Now, there are a lot of challenges without a coherent standard across products and especially across tokenized assets. And for us, it kind of reduces this friction a lot. The more and more players adopt this standard, it becomes easy because I still believe tokenization is an infancy. You look at the total size of tokenized asset, the largest tokenized assets are stable coins, to be honest, at 250 billion. But we don't call them typically RWA because, now a lot of things are coming up, but the reality is that tokenization is still less than 10% of the total money market. Our competition is not, I'm not competing with any of the other tokenization partners. Money is my TAM. I'm competing with fiat rails. I'm competing with the inefficient infrastructure that there. Now, for us, what I believe and what we strongly believe at Zoth is having a modular infrastructure, which means that, for example, there are something Bricken is great at. We want to leverage rather than trying to reinvent the wheel and focus on the customer and the user to provide them the better experience rather than trying to do everything ourselves. So, for example, there are some initiatives which are closely working with some of the partners who are part of the ERC-7 this initiative, especially Bricken. So what that helps is creates a more synergistic approach towards adopting a simplified infrastructure, which can actually drive more adoption of tokenized assets. We are actually, we're tiny compared to the traditional fiat and rails. And if you look at, for example, we're just like most of the tokenization that has been done is of bonds. Equities have just started, and there is a whole host of other things that's gonna come. Now, everybody kind of starts doing things on their own. It's gonna be a nightmare, and everybody would have their own island. So when the Bricken team came up with the idea, I think we were very supportive of it because we see the big challenge of how do I really scale? Because just tokenizing more assets is not the answer. It's driving adoption. It's users actually buying. So, and I think that's what 7943 is solving, and we are fully behind this initiative and adopting it across our ecosystem.
Yeah, great. I mean, great perspective. And I know you guys focus on, RWA yields essentially to drive your stable coin. It'll be interesting, right? When we start having more stable RWA assets, it could be a big real estate development giving a stable, 10 to 12%, where you can actually go and collateralize that, start using those yields. And of course, with 7943 becomes interoperable. If it's across, Philippe mentioned it earlier on, as we have more EVMs utilizing it, could be cross-chain, suck all that TVL in. And then for someone like Soth, for instance, you can focus on that, take that in, take those yields. So it brings those advantages from the wider market. And like you said, I think, you know, we're just a matter of months and years away from that really becoming the forefront of where we can get the yields from. And then this token standard is a mechanism to get us there. So yeah, in total agreement. Really exciting as well, having the different perspective that you bring as well to it. So I appreciate it, Britta. But I'll be very interested when we have the panel discussion, because I can see there's going to be a lot of discussions and questions coming on. So really appreciate you coming on board today. Thank you very much for giving the presentation, and we'll chat to you shortly on the panel. Thank you. All right, so next up, from our compliance friends, they're pretty bright today. They're all the way from Hacking. We've got Bryn Bennett. Over to you, Bryn.
Hello, thank you very much for and what a lovely panel it is to be on tonight. If you can, I actually prepared some slides to go over some data into security trends. So I don't know if the request has been sent to share those. If not, I can just talk about it, no problems.
Yeah, we should be able to do it. Give us 2 seconds.
Fantastic. You have just given me the power. So let's go. Okay, cool. So yeah, my name is Bryn. I'm a partner at Hacken. I advise our clients and partners on matters of cybersecurity and compliance. Can everybody see the screen? Are we having a good day with technology? Fantastic. I can see some nods. Yeah, we've been in this game for 8 years, so working with many of the major blockchain layer ones from their infancy into now, where we've taken over the world and tokenizing everything. It's been a pleasure over the years to work alongside such great colleagues as Brick, and we seem to be in a panel every week these days, Felipe, or at least with Edwin as well. And also Zoff as well, over the years. We actually audited the standard for 3643. We did the initial design audit on that, and we've audited a lot of products that have been built with that. Really, really excited to do the same again with the 7943. Again, we're involved deeply in the design phase right now. But yeah, I prepared these slides just to go over some data points. So we do publish a lot of research and analysis into the industry, particularly the cybersecurity approach of the industry, of course. This is our focus. But right now, yeah, we're seeing a huge tokenization, $5.94 billion of tokenized assets. We're seeing a huge projected value of tokenized digital securities by 2030. I truly believe that everything is going to be tokenized in the next 5 to 10 years. And you know, platforms like JP Morgan's Connexus have got 2 billion of average daily transaction volume already. And there is a huge cost saving and efficiency saving, as we know from using blockchain. I mean, even in other enterprises, you know, we've seen private equity firms are buying up traditional enterprises, converting their entire tech stack to blockchain, just because it's faster and cheaper. But yeah, this trend we expect is going to continue. However, with blockchain comes a lot of risks. There has been a huge amount of money extracted from this industry since its beginnings, because, well, essentially, once the keys are compromised, it's not anymore your coins. Often, as mentioned here, it takes 1 week link and code or access control for the entire system to break. Developers are quite, and the dev tooling that's available in the industry is quite scant, to be honest, compared to app development. We were just talking about this last week, Felipe, on a panel in Barcelona. Access control attacks dominate other attack vectors. So this is where control of the protocol, control of the private keys back in the assets has been taken. I have some more data on that in a second. And the cost of being hacked or exploited in this industry often carries irreversible reputation damage for the businesses involved. It's very hard to recover from a crypto attack. And more we're seeing that regulatory environments are changing. They're increasing the demand for good cybersecurity. Most recently, the Genius Act in the US, which includes the requirement for smart contract audits, penetration testing, and access control and key management audits as well. So obviously quite good for us. But every quarter we publish this this trend report. I recommend everyone to check that out. It's packed full of data and information. This is just a small segment of it, but we can see here that already the first half of 2025 has dwarfed the last years in terms of the amount of funds hacked. And by far the biggest threat vector is access control, but smart contract exploits, rug pulls, and phishing and other types of attacks all play a part here as well. I think by the end of this year, we're probably going to see that this amount of funds stolen is dwarfing the previous 2 years, to be honest, the way things are going. Access control and key compromise is the biggest threat vector out there. So yeah, these can start with social engineering attacks, and often do start with social engineering attacks or device compromises, and then they sort of snowball into control of more areas, more critical systems for these protocols. But by far, this is the biggest one to watch out for. And I'd advise everyone building in the real asset space to take seriously team and operational security, because it is by far one of the most important elements. You know, making sure that your Google Drive or your cloud infrastructure isn't just freely open to everybody on the internet, or making sure that your team are using separate devices for their work and personal life. These are just simple steps that everyone can take, every founder in the room can take to secure themselves on that front. We believe in a defense by depth approach. So where we are right now with 7943 is on the project development, practices and policies in the design review stage. Products that launch on blockchain, and many of the colleagues in the room have had audits done on their project and penetration testing. When we're talking about real world assets, we need to include a proof of reserves attestation to prove that that the assets are solvent and backed. Post deployment, you need to think about having a bug bounty program live. We do one 30 days after every audit that we do. It's called dual defense, and it's our way of making sure that we don't miss any critical issues. We actually put most of our revenue and all of our profits certainly into these pools to make sure that white hats have the ability to compete for that. And then having some kind of real-time protection system is absolutely paramount as well. We can't all be online 24/7 as much as we'd like to. So having an AI automated cop online is definitely important. And here at Hacken, we do a lot of research into the cybersecurity approach of the industry. We have this platform, Sir.Live. In our past, we've been responsible for cleaning up the act of the centralized exchanges by publicizing research. And it's highly likely that we're going to expand that to real world assets and stablecoin issuance as well. But yeah, just wanted to present some hard data for you guys before we get into the panel. If anyone wants to contact me about this stuff, here's my QR. Yeah, a pleasure to be here, guys.
Well, it's great to get a compliance perspective on this outside of all the builders that we've got on here. So, Bryn, thanks for really giving us that. Spent years in compliance at the investment banks and used to be bought out from help. But when we come to digital assets, yeah, no, it's very, very interesting to get that. So, like, just generally for the layman, how would Hacken prepare to support the new standard? So, would you be offering specific audit packages for ERC-7943 implementation?
Yeah, most likely. We're already involved in the standards development. Our auditors have contributed on the ETH Magicians forum. If anyone's listening and is a developer on Ethereum, I'd recommend to go to the ETH Magicians forum and contribute to the standards development. It's just an awesome community. But yeah, we would look to do a forest security audit on that, as we did with 3643 in the past, and then also the platform level integrations as well. So where people are integrating with other smart contracts. For example, there was lending protocols and yield bearing tokens discussed just now. Where these integrations and dependencies occur is often where vulnerabilities arise. As well, we're talking about real world assets, where the history of real world assets is they've often been deployed, but they're in a walled garden. When we can't easily buy and sell them and go into DeFi and go out into other things. Where the 7943 is going to enable a lot of interoperability between different platforms. So with interoperability and bridges also comes vulnerabilities, guys, have to be honest. So we're going to be looking particularly at those elements as well. Also, we're going to put our money where our mouth is and tokenize some more of our company equity once this is all
Oh,
fine
awesome.
and dandy. Yeah.
Oh, I look forward to that. I wouldn't mind some hacking digital tokens. RWA can go and stick it on Soth, start yield bearing those as well. Um, I mean, kind of leads me on to another question on standards, right? We've got 1400s, obviously 3643s, and I know people mint on a NFT standard as well. But does having multiple non-standard RWA tokens create, hidden security risk or compliance gaps that, 7943, if the majority of the industry move that way, would plug?
Yeah, exactly. So all these unique approaches have unique vulnerabilities, and often because the teams are kind of bootstrapping their own unique approach, they haven't maybe got the budget for like a full, defense in depth approach, this kind of stuff. So yeah, certainly having all of these different standards does introduce more risk. Yeah, definitely. And having a simplified approach allows us to build best practices for a safe implementation. So, if you're blockchain dev, you know that there's issues all over the place with sloppy documentation on many protocols and many chains. We're aiming to give developers a ready-to-go security suite for implementing the 7943 standard with everything they need to make a successful and secure product.
Wow, sounds interesting. Well, the community, if they're online, or the audience that hear that, well, I'll crack on down and get onto that. So, Brendan, look, we're going to crack into the panel hopefully shortly. So I know we're going to talk again. There's plenty of questions to come. So thank you very much for giving us that angle, and thanks for brightening up the stage, because I know we've got similar colors on today. So
Yes, indeed.
I appreciate it. All right, so I did actually
Green day
miss.
today. It seems shades of green everywhere.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Even, I mean, look, DigiShares got a bit blue. I know Brickin is slightly blue, and Gene, it's got a hoop. But I mean, if you go from kind of blue to green, green to blue, it's all the same. What, the reason why I wore this today, right? Green is something of change, right? It's fresh, it's new. So I thought for ERC 7943, green's got to be the way to go. I thought I was the only one thinking, but I think that the whole panel is thinking along the lines of that. Well, I made a mistake. I actually did forget something. So I need to call back Klaus. Klaus, come back. Forgot to ask
Yeah,
him a couple of questions before we get onto the panel, Klaus. I need to kind of recollect what I was going to ask you. Where are you? You there?
I'm here.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Hey, I can see you. Green, blue. Yeah, he's got blue on, so we're all in the same class. So, Klaus, DigiShare provides end-to-end white label SaaS platform, obviously real estate, but a wide variety of assets. How does a universal standard such as 7943 simplify the work at DigiShares? But more importantly, what new capabilities does it unlock for clients of DigiShares?
I think it doesn't help us specifically, I would say, but it helps the entire industry by improving, I would say, the value proposition of tokenization, right? And actually delivering on the promise of blockchain and the vision that we originally had for what we're doing here. But I think it doesn't really specifically help our clients get any new features or anything like that, right? But it increases the chance that they can get interoperability with the tokens
Yeah,
with all the other players in the industry, right? That is
yeah,
what we need. We can't have different
no,
standards making our platforms not operable or
and I know we've
compatible
had.
with each other, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I know we've had plenty of conversation on collateralization at some point of RWA tokens. So, items like that bringing into DeFi. I know we covered that with Pritam as well. It's going to make it very, very easy, very
Yeah.
standard. And actually, if the majority of the industry are on 7943, the interoperability comes. I mean, technically, how do you plan to integrate 7943 into the DigiShares platform? Look, will it become the new standard? And
Yeah.
what does it mean for clients already? Do they need to migrate to this new token, or can you just carry on with what they've got?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not the most technical guy in the company, but I think they can, of course, they can continue to use whatever they're using now, which is the ERC 1404.
Yeah.
but all of them will have the option to migrate. And new clients will all be on 7943. But of course, we do support different chains, right? So there are non-EVM chains where 7943 doesn't really make so much sense. But at the end of the day, I think 95% of our clients are on EVM chains. So it's definitely the dominating proportion.
Yes, definitely. And like I was saying, I literally had a conversation with an L1 yesterday. So, you know, they were very excited. And, you know, when you look at the integration time, it's literally seconds. So,
Yeah.
yeah, a standard protocol like this is going to really help. Well, thanks, Klaus. Sorry,
Thank you.
missed you out on the questions.
No worries.
You need to wear green next time.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to move on to the panel. Let's just give everyone a minute. I'm just going to quickly grab some water and then we'll kick on with the panel for today. I can see a lot of questions in the Q&A, so feel free to keep building those up, audience. And yeah, I think some of you putting in the chat, but if I can ask you to move it over to the Q&A section, that would be great. And we'll get on to those questions. Just give me a quick minute and I'll be back. There you go. That was very quick. Right, so we'll kick off the panel. Everyone, I'll get on to some Q&As from the audience in a bit. Look, we kind of answered this, but I'm going to put it out to the whole panel so they can discuss together. But why was it so critical for for all of us on this panel, spanning all the different platforms and compliance, to collaborate on a new standard versus building on existing ones like 1400 or even 3643? Feel free, anyone, to take
I
that.
think that's a question for Breaking, really, because they started the development.
Yeah, definitely. Philippe?
Sorry, can you repeat the question? It's just my daughter come from school.
No,
and
no
was-
problem at all. Why was it so critical, really, to focus on building a new standard instead of building on existing ones, like 1400?
Well, we need to be able to make a standard that can be expand, has the different financial instrument that we tokenize it can be adapted. So as we believe that this have our approach was to make this unified at a minimal interface, and provide and remove all these problems that we have into the interoperability, to adapt to get all this liquidity in between all these chains, as was told in this panel before. And one point is that doesn't erase that everything that has been done before and make it compatible through the methods that has been used. So if you want to move to this new standard, will be the easier. Will make it easier. Don't make it like harder or use different methods or namings. So that was part of what when we start, and then Dario, as author on the Ethereum Magicians forum, was in discussions to other standards with what are the methods and truly standardize and make it compatible or retro-compatible with other standards. That is important for us and make it easier for all the participants to adopt.
Awesome, thank you. So this one I'm putting out to all the panel. Feel free to jump in. I'm going to an audience question from Teresa Kennedy. Does this help make it less expensive to tokenize real estate, for instance? So I think the actual question is here: does it reduce the cost? So I'll put this out to a number of you guys. Obviously, Brick and Klaus.
Maybe I can add, and if that helps.
Yes, please go for it.
Yeah, so I don't know. It means we are still assessing whether it will reduce the cost, but it definitely makes it faster and cheaper. If there is a common standards, more devs are available, so it will be cheaper to build, which definitely kind of reduce the cost. And most importantly, when you tokenize something, the importance is, will it sell? So that standardization will definitely help.
Definitely. So we're saying there could be cost benefits to this. We may not see it immediately, but over time, this could produce economies of scale as people start using the same token standard and in different ways. And then for real estate, Klaus, obviously, I think you'll probably have some opinions on this.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, right? It's about connecting all the different pieces, right? Connecting the buy side with the sell side. That becomes so much easier if everyone is using the same protocol, right? So yeah, 100% agree.
Definitely. Okay, another question from Anonymous. What actual problem is ERC-7943 solving for the on-ramping and off-ramping of RW assets? Hearing a lot of features. I guess, I mean, I'll put it out to the panel. It's making it more straightforward, but yeah, feel free to take that.
Well, if it means about on-ramping, off-ramping on crypto to be able to invest or to onboarding on these tokenized assets, for the on-ramping and off-ramping on crypto, it depends on each platform how to can manage. That is another problem. Other things that need to be improved, like the access from Web 2 users to Web 3 users. And yeah, each platform is doing this approach. If it's for the access to these digital assets, I think with the interoperability and be able to move around different blockchains, would allows more people to be able to interact with these tokenized assets for sure.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. What is probably one for you again, Philippe, what is the single biggest pain point for RWA issuers and developers today that the 7943 directly solves?
Well, the first problem is to stop creating new standards. New implementations. So you can go to this minimal implementation and start building up of it. So this gives you like a roadmap or a base for start creating a tokenized asset accordingly to the financial instrument that they want to tokenize. So this is gonna help a lot in that sense.
Awesome. Bryn, I'm not sure if got your hand up. I was about to come to you, but there you go.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that. I actually spoke to quite a lot of projects that are, considering tokenizing real world assets across Europe last week at EBC in Barcelona, and this week more worldwide on video calls. Most of them are saying that it's very difficult with all these different identity registers and the KYC requirement because that's baked into some of these token standards, that it becomes very difficult for it to share this information among different protocols. Hence why I mentioned before that often we've seen real world assets launch and get kind of in a walled garden, shall we say. So yeah, definitely see the C7943 as a bridge between all these different classes. And I think this backwards compatibility point that Felipe mentioned before is particularly interesting for us as most of our team is former developers. Before you become an auditor, you must first be a developer. So yeah, just wanted to add that little point.
No, well, you kind of answered the question I was actually going to ask you.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
No, I mean it's like you're from the future. But I was basically like, it kind of follows on, right? Yeah. These compliance guys, how does the standard balance the ERC 793 the institutional need for strict compliance? So we're talking about, you just mentioned it, KYC, AML, whitelisting, with the Web3 ethos of cosmopossibility. I can't even say that word anymore, and permissionless innovation.
Well, these things, as I understand, can be modular now. So you can have your own KYC provision, you can have your own AML system, whichever provider you want to use for that. On the whitelisting platform as well, and all the travel rule compliance and stuff. These things are modular and they plug into your platform as and when you need them. And then where you do cross over to another platform, there would be some information sharing protocol. Again, that's modular as well. It's not baked directly into the token standard.
Yeah,
Okay.
totally. Just to add to Brian, the approach of 7943 is to separate the interoperability layer from the compliant layer. So the standard itself is one thing, and what is providing all the compliance layer can be in another model. So in that way, you can manage this interoperability through the standard and then communicate this attestation, registry, or policies in with other channels too. So in that way, you manage manage these connections with the standards.
Awesome. I think going out to the wider panel, right? So, we talk a lot, especially in the RWA world, about mass adoption. And obviously, get tokenized funds on securitize and all that kind of good stuff. But how do we really convince, a big RWA issuer, could be a big commercial real estate somewhere, or a big financial institution, like I was at the big banks, one of these big investment banks, to really say, look, this is the new standard, this is the standard to build on. I've had thoughts about, create the working group, the institutional working groups, and actually bring them in. But what is the panel's thoughts of how do we get this real adoption? One, on the standard, obviously we want them to come in on real world assets as well. Yeah, it's the $1 million question.
I actually just answered a similar question in the Q&A, so I can take this one first, and then please, guys, feel free to jump in. I just, from the moment this working group was announced on the design phase, there's just that so many companies are involved, and so many companies have been having these issues who've tried with other standards and have been successful with other standards, but know that there's limitations to scaling. I think it must be over 50 companies, maybe 60 companies in this working group now. And for me, this is just okay. We all know this is an issue. Let's work together. Let's fix it. For us, we're probably going to be the last stage before this gets shipped. But yeah, just a very exciting group to work in.
I think also, like, again, I come from originally capital markets and investment banking, and I see it, I liken it to the big banks working together. So, I mean, look, some are competitors, but obviously we all work for the betterment of the industry, right? We want to bring the standards up. We want to all work on one interoperable standard. So I see it as a positive of the industry coming together. Yes, competitors in different ways, but then we work together to take it up to the next level. And I think that is really one of the paths to mass adoption. So agree, having 40, 50 companies in on the standard is amazing. All right,
Yeah,
just gonna
totally.
sorry.
Totally, is what we create, and we put together all these companies on the ecosystem to have this standard. So if we are working together on this, we have a huge voice and with the standard, and all the other players on the ecosystem to start using it will be the adoption is there. So it's the way that we can collaborate together, not only the RWA platforms, other DEX platforms that can use this standard and create something around this, because this is just the seed that we are putting here. But I think that many other use cases and tools and apps will be created around, and thanks to the standardization of these URWA.
Definitely, Gene, you had comments.
I would like to add something. I think that the standard is essential, but it's not only the standard that makes the difference for the traditional businesses. The risk is on one part of the one hand, whereas the cost savings and efficiency on the other. So when we talk about the decision-making process, the standard is of course is the key, but the evaluation of the risks, and obviously the standard itself tremendously removes those risks, especially given the fact the audits and the adoption rate. However, there's also the costs and efficiency that has to be evaluated before any business jumps into tokenization itself. So they have to clear picture why are they doing so. And again, that's good that we already have big boys jumping on that. However, time and adoption will do its job. So
awesome. Thank you, Gene. I appreciate that. I'm going to pop to an audience question as well, because I'm always keen to answer their questions. I'm going to read this through, so bear with me. Assuming 7943 will help with some of the liquidity challenges by creating a standard around each tokenization platform and exchange that is dealing with RWAs. How will this standard allow for more liquidity versus what we are currently what's currently available? I mean, I'll kick it off. I mean, liquidity is obviously pretty thin on the buy side for RWAs, but okay, how will this standard, kind of answered it before, but out to the panel again, how will the 7943 look to solve the liquidity problem in RWAs?
Well, I can answer that.
Sure.
As we see that different projects work, so with the assets in one blockchain and their audience is there with their liquidities, they only have available this target persona for their raising capital, if they're okay for primary sales. Once you have the 7943, and you manage different chains for this asset, you can have a broader audience, and their liquidity can comes to your asset to be that is tokenized. That is in the simple sense of that. In the other sense is once you go and on these decentralized markets, hopefully soon, will happen the same as these markets don't need to worry about different type of asset and how to integrate it. They can just connect it and have like everything is okay, and they can offer these assets to the public, and then it's other markets that can be open for sure. So that is in the simple way.
Sorry, there was someone else jumping in. Is that right? No? No. Cool. Thank you, Philippe. Appreciate that. I'm just clearing up these Q&As. So Klaus, one for you. How does the whole ecosystem, okay, so how does 7943, work in DigiShares? I know you answered this before, but I'm just clearing that one off. So
do it again. We'll use it across our ecosystem. It'll be rolled out to all our white label platform operators, more than 200, and also the exchange, white real estate.exchange. So we'll be using it across our ecosystem, right? And just the fact that you can easily mint tokens that you can then get listed on exchange without any hassle is already a step forward. So yeah, so we'll do that.
Cool. And Klaus, to you and the others on the panel, I'm going back now into this chat. I think some people put their questions in the chat, but look, I saw loan on there, so I thought that's really interesting. So I'm just going to read this out. Tokenization clearly opens a new distribution channel. Agreed. But what are the risks when tokenized assets start interacting with DeFi protocols? Oh, good one. And in sectors like real estate, which are closely tied to credit markets, could we see loans themselves being tokenized? I know Pritam and you, Klaus, might have something.
We have clients tokenizing loans. It's done already. It's been for a long time. I'm sure,
Bonds
I'm sure Dean
are
can say
kind
the
of
same.
loans getting tokenized. No, bonds, treasury bonds are loaned to the sovereign governments. Now we have money market and bank bonds, and typically, a lot of other loans coming on chain. So I think it's actually the most promising sector right now.
Yeah, definitely. Tokenized loans will be interesting, and then also getting a DeFi loan and then buying some RWA assets. That'll be even more interesting. Getting that money markets going.
Yeah, so actually 7943 helps. So, at Zoth, that's what we typically did. So, for example, we had we still had a product which we are refining. Is called CDP, which is collateralized debt position. So you could typically tokenize your, basically have any other tokenized product which we consider as collateral. Typically our money market fund T-bills, and there is a set collateral ratio. Put it as a collateral and mint our yield token on top, which what it does, it is basically provides more utility for liquid, some of the other assets. So while we started with the money market and treasury bills, typically assets which are kind of easy to liquidate in case of market volatility, one of the products which we are kind of getting a lot of interest from is real estate. Now, the problem with real estate obviously is localization, lack of global standards, data, etc. But I think, for example, I'm based in Dubai, and there is a huge amount of work that's going on, especially on making the assets liquid. One of our partners, for example, in Dubai is already tokenized more than 300 million worth of assets here, and are working on a DEX kind of an infrastructure where these tokenized assets could be kind of cross-sell. But yeah, still it's kind of much, I would say it's still like in its infancy, but it's a big use case, one of the biggest, I would say, in the RWA space.
Wow, that's, I mean, actually leading on, we've got on that in terms of the use cases, looking, let's say 5 years ahead into the future, what new complex RWA use cases could we see? So I don't know, some dynamic structured complex products, maybe some cross-chain RWA back lending. I mean, does the new standard help bring out some new complex RWA use cases in the future? I think we were thinking way ahead of time, but
So maybe like, I can add some points, and obviously would love to hear from Gene, Klaus, and rest of the team. So what I kind of see, if I go back when we started, for example, Zod, RWA was a standalone industry. The whole crypto used to move in a certain way. RWA obviously has its own challenges, its legal structuring. See, anything you touch in RWA, you are kind of stuck in the whole legal nightmare around it. Things have improved, and as obviously Genius and everything has come up, things have become much easier. What I believe is definitely gonna happen is more and more synergy between DeFi and RWA, more and more basically RWA products getting used as a collateral. It's already happening, but even more use case. And like currently there is a barricade, means there is the wider crypto industry and there is the subsector of RWAs, that barrier breaking, it becoming fully integrated, for example, across payments, across cards, across lending, with RWA back assets, with like how it's happening with any other digital asset today. So yeah, one of the things which we have been also exploring is how we can have, for example, our yield-bearing token tightly integrated in our payment stack. So we launched a product called PayX7, which primarily is like the underlying asset is our yield-bearing token. So any user having it basically can use it to pay for like pretty much day-to-day use case like buying a coffee. Now the underlying asset is typically currently a money market fund or treasury bill. Now that's I would say the most basic RWA which is getting tokenized. But what if tomorrow, like, you have 100 shares of an apartment in Dubai, you put it as a collateral, and you could use it and link it to your payment card to pay for something? I think that's what's going to happen. It's already happening in other assets. That's when that's the big shift that's going to happen.
No, I agree. We'll open up to the other panel, but yeah, today I can go into my phone, use Nexo, collateralize some Bitcoin, 50% LTV, take that out and buy another digital asset. But yeah, like you said, in the future, you could collateralize your RWA asset, take it out. You might need to use it for everyday goods, and then when you're ready, you can pay it back. And can definitely see that happening. What does the rest of the panel think, Gene?
I can add a comment. It's a great point, and actually I think it's much more likely to happen now than when the big DeFi players can reach all of us right through a single protocol. I think it's possible that before, when they had to cover maybe 10 different protocols to reach critical mass, they just decided not to do it, right? So as an industry, we have a much better chance of getting integrated into DeFi, getting used by the big financial service providers and so on, because they can now, or soon at least, cover many of us using a single protocol.
Awesome. Any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would like to add. Obviously, the standard, the adoption of the RWAs will create, a standalone utilities, like as you said, where you can collateralize real estate shares and you link it to your card. And we'll see. I'm sure we'll see many of the applications that will kick off and kind of be standalone. However, we do still see the people that have no idea what's the difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum, and I guess most of us are coming from the either development side or the crypto native Web3, experience. Whereas most of the adoption, most of the our clients they've still asking that simple questions. What is this? So we are, we're very specific. We're very early. We look at this from the professional perspective, but I don't think even of a complex products at the moment, because the adoption curve is now definitely on the institutional side. We will definitely see the business adoption through the SMEs, and who is dealing with them know that they're struggling kind of comprehending what the hell is going on with all this, with all these new words and acronyms, and what's the efficiency, and only then we'll see as far as I can see, only then we'll see the public adoption to the
Awesome.
RWAs. So yeah, it's still some time, and we'll definitely see some of the great products emerging on the different curves
Yeah.
with the kind of throughout this journey.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I'm not sure if Philippe's going to say something as well, but I
Yeah.
think as a lot of when these RWAs come out, you'll know as well, like over at Bricken, especially on the real estate, when these assets come on as stable passive income, then yeah, collateralization is really going to kick in big time. So, Philippe, you're about to jump in.
Yeah, I think that we have to remember that we are building the infrastructure, the next generation infrastructure for the this standard that allow us to integrate with decentralized protocols, and this goes hand to hand with the adoption too with the stable coins too. That we're still talking about the stable coins, we're still talking about tokenization, but I think in the next 5 years we're gonna stop talking about tokenization. So the people just gonna say they're gonna issue an asset as a normal way, because it's what is behind of the financial instruments, and how we can collateralize these RWAs needs to pass in these next 5 years to be able to how this registry of this asset, how you can like liquidate that asset in a decentralized manner. So I think it's a path that we are on it, and we're still working on this new infrastructure, and yeah, we are going out for that, and it's very excited what is coming up, and all the industry and the adoption and from the institutions to see what is going on and see, okay, this is something that is real, is working on, and resolve a lot of problem for them too. All right, so I think it's,
Do you know what?
5 years like that is.
Do you know what I liken this to? And I know some of us are OGs in this space as well, right? Going back some time. Britain, you're gonna like this one. I kind of liken this to the lunar ecosystem, and the reason why I say this is when okay, whatever we think about Do Kwon and Luna, that ecosystem just went from nothing to something, and the amount of builders that we had coming on there, why? Because they had a blockchain, had a standard that everyone wanted to use, and it worked at the time. But what it encouraged was all these players bringing in innovative products, which we're talking about. This will just open the floodgates, ERC-7943, to have all these innovative apps, to have people getting excited. And it's not just going to be, us OGs on the call today. We're going to have lots of, I don't want to say projects, but businesses coming in on, the institutions coming on board. So I think the 7943 is just really laying the foundations for this to explode. And yeah, going back to, something like Luna in that bubble, they got one thing right. And I think this is what's going to happen to RWAs after this standard. But I know Bryn is going to come in, and I don't know if it's from a compliance angle because I mentioned Luna. But
You know what? I have PTSD from that, mate.
yeah, I know.
Still
I
hated
know.
it.
Lot of
I've
us
got.
have.
I think we all have because of OGs. I've got a
Yeah.
podcast coming out soon where I cover it on UST. I don't want to steal
Oh,
the limelight.
please get me involved. I have a funny story. I have a
Yeah,
very
I'll
funny
send you
story.
the link later on. But
I'll
anyway,
save it for your podcast.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Luna was I was working in the Cosmos ecosystem at the time, so we were all like everyone in that ecosystem was all in. Luna Terra was at a Cosmos chain. It was one of the first ones. I was working for the third one. So people, we had to pay people's rent and mortgages after that collapse, and the cause was the lack of solvency actually back in the stablecoin. So yeah, this is again where the proof post deployment, the security doesn't stop. From my perspective, you have to have the regular proof of reserves attestations. This is mandatory in most jurisdictions now, to be honest, and I would expect that most jurisdictions that haven't implemented licenses for stablecoin issuers yet are going to have those requirements in place. But yeah, the proof of solvency, making sure the assets are backed, just forms one piece of the puzzle for security and compliance. But yeah, this is the big case study for us, and hopefully I've made more money on that than I lost in the initial.
You're not the only one. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll be talking about Luna on this. I think Klaus will have to do another webinar on PTSD on the Luna ecosystem because those OGs are really hurting. But yeah, I mean, going back to the great thing is the reason I brought it up is, as Bryn, you know as well, right? It was a great ecosystem. Everyone came to it. And I can just see now, I'm just likening it to 7943. I think we are going to see a flurry of businesses, institutions coming in and be like, great, we've got the standard, we can use it. What does that mean? You know, not simple to build, but, you know, quick to build, we get it out there. You know, the likes of Pritam on the DeFi side, Gene on institutional, DigiShares with their 200 odd clients, and hacking going away and doing all these audits. I think, you know, we've got a cohort. Can't leave that Philippe, right? The co-authors of 7943. I think we got a cohort and the 40 other companies that are involved to do something really special. I think the reason why I'm passionate and the rest of you guys are passionate is we know and we can feel what's about to come, and we're on about the tip of the iceberg. Did I have a couple of questions before we kind of round off? I think we've got through most of the Q&As. I'll leave one at the end. What does ERC-7943 mean for the end investor? How will it improve their experience with tokenized assets in terms of liquidity, security, and accessibility? Kind of answered it so far. I think we've kind of answered that, right, Philippe? You know, it's
yeah, well, it's gonna transform these let's say the tokenization from isolated experiments into a cohesive ecosystem, you know. So it's how we talk is unlocking liquidity, more transparency, cross market composability, you know. As EC standard, it's not like, you know, for BRIM will be, and for the auditors, they can review and know that it's a secure token in that sense too. And for the end user, at the end, each platform is working on make it as easier as possible, independently of the standard that they was using. I know that is a thing that all of the companies are working to make it easier for the investor side, to make it familiar. So I think in that part is what 7943 can do for the end user. And that's all. 7943 is more than industrial and institutional side changes and on the backbones, and they will be reflects on the user side because we don't have to keep thinking on these standards and experiments, etc., and we can work on make it better products for sure.
all right. So before we close out, what's the biggest hurdle we see in the adoption? Is it technical, regulatory? I know Bryn will have some views on that. Or is it just a matter of market education?
Yeah. I like the part of the market education. As I was in a panel with Brim about the education, and I think that we don't need to we need to make this technology as easier. Then you don't need to explain it to the end user. You know, it's like my daughter had know how to use YouTube and skip ads, and she doesn't even know how to read. So that is a great experience for the user, and you know. But I think in that part, I'm gonna take that part of the education. I don't know if somebody else wants to expand in the other part of this question.
One day we'll be there. One day we will be there. I think it's a bit of everything. Definitely education is the key, and it's a kind of lubricant for the adoption. But given the fact that there's a standards and there's a compliance and there's regulations, whatever they are on the market, So we have to remove the risks and educate the others.
Cool. Thank you, Gene. Oh, it looks like a couple of questions just popped up, but let me just see this one. So this is outside of my remit, but I'll read it out. Maybe Philippe or one of the other guys more technical can get this. You mentioned that 7943 is largely compatible with various platform implementations. Does that mean an ERC 1400 implementer such as Talium, excuse me, would be relatively easy to integrate? I'm not sure. I'm actually not sure about that question.
I can answer that question directly, but as Talium and the ERC-7443 implementer can go to the Ethereum Magician and see our open forum and see if it's compatible with the standard, for sure. We tried, as other participant has been on this discussion to make it compatible for them. But if he's following the RC20, RC7021, RC1155, the ERC-3643 methods, it will be compatible, right? So
cool.
I don't know all the standards and how these all are compatible. So we do our best for sure. But the discussion is open, and they can go there and see if it's compatible. Is it something is not, and something on the naming? Let's check it out. Is this possible? Because is this broke or something else? It's possible for sure.
It's funny, right? I try to close out because my cough is coming back, and then these questions keep popping up. But while I got you, Philippe, on there, Regan has got a question. It appears that the standard is still under review. Okay, someone's going on GitHub. When is it expected to be final?
All right. We think that be in the early 2026 will be finalized. But I think that is the time frame. As I said at the beginning, when we start with this journey, one of our concerns was how long will it take, and it's going very fast so far, and we hope to be ready by early 2026. Yeah.
There you go, Regan. From the horse's mouth, you got your answer there. Take that away, put it in the community, let them know that. Right, I think we've got to final question. Klaus, you got one from someone anonymous here. I'm going to read it out word for word. So DigiShares is a very important counterpart, okay, in the adoption of ERC-7943 across the industry with its 200 clients, question mark. Okay. I guess the question to you, Klaus, you're a very important counterpart with the adoption. Yeah, I'll answer this for you, Klaus. Yes, I think to Anonymous, DigiShares, the other Brickin, the other companies out here, Soth.io and Gene's STO box, along with Brickin, definitely all important counterparts. They're going to be utilizing ERC-7943. And yes, they have lots of clients. We would like more going to them as well. So, feel free to hit them up and pass on the information. So look, we've come to the end of this webinar. First of all, I want to thank Klaus and the DigiShares team for hosting this. And they do a series of these. So please, follow them on social media to see the next webinar that are coming up. I think this was probably one of the most important and interesting topics. Come back to this in 12 months' time and you'll say it's so important. There will be big changes in the industry. And then a big thanks to our panel. So Gene from STO Box, Bryn from Hacking, Pritam from Soft.io, and our co-authors, Philippe. We really appreciate you coming on board today, giving the presentations, talking us through, having this great panel discussion on 7943. We even slipped in a bit on Luna there for us OGs. But it was a great time. Look forward to future panels with you guys in the future. And to the audience, look, I think this topic's going to continue. Read up. I mean, Philippe gave you some GitHub details. I think if you go follow these guys on LinkedIn as well, you'll get a slew of information, not just on 7943, but what they're into on this industry, and it's ever changing every day. So look, without further ado, look, just round of applause for for the panel, and Klaus from DigiShares. Thanks very much. We'll close it out. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you're in the world. But goodbye here from Dubai. Thanks. See you next time.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you.